That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here. And
Joker's Wild. Hello, it's me.
And Ace Astro?
yeah, that's right. I switch it up. Sometimes I introduce you guys. Sometimes I expect you guys to introduce yourselves. I like to keep you guys on your toes.
I'm out of practice. It's not my fault.
All right. So welcome one and all to the deep dive on the new Defunctland feature-length documentary live from the space stage, a Halyx story. This, of course, is a documentary that has been crowdfunded and paid for by all the good folks following Kevin Perjurer on Defunctland. Ace, you had something to do with the development of this documentary. Would you like to kind of state your official title with everything?
Yeah, so my official title for in the doc was something like social media image or something because I had a small 2-second cameo in it of me wearing my Helix shirt in the park.
It's
but
amazing. It's an amazing cameo. It was the best moment in the whole film.
yeah, it's funny because
Really
someone's
transcendent.
letterbox review. It's funny. Someone's letterbox review was something like Star Wars Rock and Corv in one documentary, a 10 out of 10 film. And I was like, I can't believe someone used that as their actual review and everything. But outside of this little cameo, I would watch various cuts from, maybe starting a year ago now.
Oh wow!
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been quite a while. And I'd, watch cuts and everything and just, this part makes sense, or, I'd move this part out to either the end or somewhere, or,
All right.
Just little
So
notes
you
here
were
and there
really
for
kind
the
of the
director.
guy, like you weren't the editor, but you were kind of like fine tuning the editing practice.
Yeah,
if you
so
will.
me and another guy, John, would watch the occasional cuts from Matthew, the director, and just be like,
Mhm.
I like this part, or this part might not make sense here, or hey, you told me about this when we talked previously, but it's not in the movie anymore. Why was it cut, sort of thing.
Sure. I do have some notes from Dragon. He says, "Do me a favor, Tiki. Tell Ace I was impressed with how the doc turned out. End result was very professional and well made. I would love to see more feature-length work from Defunctland." All right,
Yeah.
so that's Dragon's like little blurb on the back of the box, I guess. Thanks, Dragon. All right, Jokers, what do you think of this little shindig we got going on?
Like us together. I really like the movie. I'm glad we're together again.
No, I'm glad we're together again too, Jokers. But no, I'm talking about the movie.
No, I really like the movie. Sorry, that was a vague question.
Together again.
I'll break out my piano.
Oh,
no, I
God.
really, no, I really enjoyed it.
Because wasn't the last time we had you on the podcast before you like left semi-permanently. We saying goodbye.
Probably no. Wasn't that like right before I went to college? Like
Maybe,
forever ago?
yeah. God. Anyways.
No, I really enjoyed the documentary. It was very interesting. Helix is something that I had never heard of, and it was a really well-made documentary. I was telling Tiki a few days ago that I really enjoyed Please Remain Seated, Please.
Yeah.
So I was very excited for this. I remember hearing about the documentary like a year ago, and then I forgot about it until last week.
Wait.
but-
So the people who made Remain Seated, Please made this?
Yeah, same dude.
Matthew is the director for both.
Yeah.
Okay. You son of a bitch. I thought that the people who made the Ren and Stimpy movie made Remain Seated, Please.
No,
I got confused.
Oh.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Because
No.
this whole time I was like, oh, the Ren and Stimpy guys, they really get us, man. But yeah, this makes a lot more sense. That I want to highlight though, the fact that like nobody really knows what Halyx is. I feel like as someone who has just like purged their way through almost every book there is that's ever been written about the history of Disneyland, mean, for God's sakes, like I've read like 3 different David Koenig books on like, like, oh, the inside scoop on working at Disneyland. I swear to God, this band hasn't come up once in any of them. I mean, this is such like an underturned leaf in the history of Disneyland Park, where it's like, you've got all these different things, all these different facets. We all, of course, Evan, your favorite, we all know, the story of Soarin' over California. And, stuff like that, just like different things in the lore of Disneyland. Like, oh, Walt bought Lily the petrified tree, and then she donated it back to the park because theoretically she probably hated it. That's my theory, at least. But, just different stuff like that you hear, just like stories that kind of almost become part of the Disneyland mythology, if you will. The opening day being so terrible and everything like that. You never ever hear of Halyx. I mean, that's what I love the most about this documentary, is that this thing shines a light on like arguably maybe one of the most obscure yet awesome things to have ever existed at Disneyland.
Well, yeah, because so it was announced to the patrons and everything like that in January of 2019, and so when we were all in the call, he mentioned that, and so we went to look for information, and at that time there was like 2 or 3 pictures and 2 or 3 blog posts, and that was it. Like there was, even when you Googled just the name, there was nothing. That whatever it was 18 months ago to what they have now is just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really does go to show that this was a great subject for a documentary, because it's ripe with potential, and yet, it's a story that has literally just remained untold. And you know what? As with any good documentary, there is a compelling human element to this thing at the center of it. Before we start breaking it down, one thing I want to break down, and Evan, I'm curious to have you on for this conversation. I want to break down just the general vibe of Disneyland as a venue, because that's something that I found really, really fascinating about the park, and how it almost kind of continues to evolve. Because of course Disneyland, way back in the 50s and 60s, one of the big things they would do is they would have like the jazz nights on the rivers of America. People like Louis Armstrong would be on the decks of the Mark Twain. And honestly, that guy, like, like whenever people pose like time travel questions, like, oh, if you could travel back in time, blah, 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 it's always Disneyland stuff that I'm interested in traveling back in time to. And I got to admit, seeing folks like Louis Armstrong on the Mark Twain in the evening, I mean, that's like one of those things where it's like, you have to be there for it, man. Like, it fascinates me that kind of stuff even happened at Disneyland. But the thing that I want to kind of zero in on with this documentary, and excuse me if this is kind of like a side turn here, but Evan, I'm sure you're at least somewhat aware that ska actually, or at the very least punk ska, got a significant boost through small bands playing at Disneyland. So one of those bands, of course, being No Doubt with Gwen Stefani. No Doubt would I don't know if they would play Disneyland, but they were certainly like connected to the culture of Disneyland. Of course, their album The Tragic Kingdom came out in 1995. I feel like that kind of opened the floodgates. I feel like after The Tragic Kingdom, that's when Disneyland really wanted to get on the ska bandwagon. And after that, they would transition into the Disneyland Resort. They would have like Downtown Disney. And I definitely remember seeing bands like Suburban Legends way before they broke big onto the ska circuit at Downtown Disney, just playing the little stage by the AMC. Yeah. So, so it's really fascinating that Disneyland has been a venue for any number of years that, they've hosted super popular bands, but they've also hosted like house bands like the Firehouse 5+2 and stuff like that. It's just gone all over the board with entertainment. I really feel like, it's one of the most unique venues on earth when it comes to like a band rolling through it.
Yeah. Side note, I can confirm that No Doubt played Disneyland. I found a set list.
Nice.
In 1995, May 25th, 1995.
Nice. So I assume it was to promote the Tragic Kingdom, so that lines up.
Probably, yeah. But no, I mean, I honestly didn't know until very recently that like local bands, like Orange County bands, just randomly played Disneyland. Because I'm so used to Disney World where everything's very controlled.
I mean, Sue, Neil Patrick Harris does the candlelight processional. I'm not even joking. That was something I was there for.
Oh no, I know, but yeah, I mean that's a little different though. But yeah, I didn't know that there were like Orange County local bands playing Disneyland, and they talk about it in the documentary, and I'm sure it's super tough because no one's going to Disneyland to listen to a local rock band.
I honestly feel like the bands that did it in downtown Disney had a little bit more of an advantage because, like,
oh, absolutely,
because in downtown Disney, you're like actively looking for something exciting to happen, and so when that exciting thing happens, you like zero in on it.
I mean, especially in Florida, they have like 4 or 5 stages where there's
right
playing daily, and it's always the same people for the past like 15 years.
Shade.
No, it's not shade. I love him. There's this guy who plays a Fender guitar, and he plays a didgeridoo at the same time, and he throws pics at the audience like he's like the hottest motherfucker in downtown Disney. Like he has like a record deal, and he's just this dude playing Stratocaster and didgeridoo for 2 hours.
And
he's my favorite.
I wanted to have you on.
That's what Halyx should have been. Is the thesis of this podcast.
All right.
But no, yeah, Disneyland sounds like a super tough venue, and it's surprising that they were successful at all.
Yeah, so Ace, do you want to get into kind of like the formation of Halyx and how you guys came about researching it and everything?
Yeah, so Matthew and Kevin found the idea through podcast The Ride, was showcased near the end there.
Can we just take all the random things that Podcast The Ride has showcased over the years and make documentaries about them?
Right?
Get a documentary about the David Copperfield show in Las Vegas.
Yes.
Anyways.
But yeah, so at first it was just, oh, well, that sounds interesting. Can we find more about it? And so that sort of built up. And then Matthew found one of the band members. And by finding one, he found the next and the next and the next and the next, right? And so it kind of just spiraled or snowballed from finding one. And he was like, oh, well, yeah, I still have the contact for this one and this one. And, here's this one through their Facebook and everything like that. And so suddenly finding one, they found all of them and people like Bambi and Mike and like Mike Post and all of them. And so at that point it was just, well, how much information can I get from you? And so it's really funny because in his house, I don't know if he's posted a picture of this or not, but he has a giant binder that just has Halyx on the front, and it is anything and everything he's ever been told through any of the interviews. So it's
wow.
This is the holy Bible of Halyx because anything that's known is in this.
Oh, jeez. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool because it's like, it is not even like it's a 2-inch binder or something.
Yeah.
Full of all this information and even stuff that didn't make it in the end. So it's like, oh, I wonder what's all in there.
So yeah, was it really just as simple as you guys kind of stumbling upon the podcast, the Ride episode, and being like, oh, that would make a good subject for a documentary? Were you guys like actively looking for a subject to make a documentary around, or was it just kind of like a twist of fate, if you will?
Yeah, so Matthew did the Remain Seated, Please, of course. And so Kevin had always talked about doing a full feature documentary for the channel. And so when he saw this video and everything, he knew he wanted to work with Matthew. And so, they had the producer director team per se, but then they just needed a subject. And so they were talking about how they've had calls of just trying to figure out a subject. And then Kevin was listening to that episode of Podcast The Ride and was like, hey, maybe this could work. And so then they ran with it that way. But they had the idea of doing a documentary before they had the documentary idea in
Okay.
place.
Nice. Can you tell me if there were like any other like subjects that they considered, or was Halyx just like a a lightning in a bottle type moment with the context of it?
Right. I'm totally blanking offhand, but I know there was others that they talked about that it was like their basic reaction was, yeah, that could work, but is it Defunctland enough, if that makes sense, right? Like,
Sure. All right. Good stuff. So of course through the documentary, we get almost kind of like as with every good documentary, we get a bit of a 3-act structure. So, act 1 being kind of like the formation of the band, act 2 being the band's very brief heyday, and then act 3 being kind of like the rise and fall of Laura. Was it very like intentional to have that kind of like dramatic structure all the way through it, Ace?
yeah. So how Matthew set it up is it's a 5-act structure that then can
Oh, a
be
5-act
pushed.
structure.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So
excuse
it's
me.
5 that can be pushed
Excuse
into
me.
3.
Okay.
But I mean, both work, right? So,
uh,
act 1 is that whole large setup of, okay, well, let's make a band and,
yeah.
this and that. And then act 2 is like, okay, well, we have the band. Let's, put them all together in this sense of let's play in Disneyland. And so then act 3 is them playing. Act 4 is, hey, we got a record deal. Let's, we're set. And then act 5 is, well, everything's falling apart here.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I mean, I would I'd have to triple check, but, like, basically since day 1, it's been the plan has been a 5-act structure,
Oh,
so
wow.
they knew that was the way they were planning on going with it, and I mean, I feel like it works, right?
Oh,
So
no, I absolutely it does, because it gives you the information that you need, kind of
mhm.
starts to trickle in more character details and more intimate stuff as it goes along. And then I feel like it's all kind of building up for a fucking gut punch at the end, and it delivers on that.
Yeah.
And honestly, man, that gut punch, I mean, it really is like, I don't want to get too into the ending just yet, but like it's a tragic thing. And it really is like I feel like it really is a kind of like a cautionary tale of the entertainment industry.
Right? When, I don't know how far you wanna go into the end there, so I can
Mm.
wait, but, like, the whole waiting or checking the phone every day thing, I was like,
Yes, that whole
"Oh."
thing. Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's fucking
Right?
brutal.
I was like,
Um,
"Oh."
I mean, they really don't pull any punches with, kind of getting you in the core. When
Mhm.
you were advertising on us, you were like, "Oh, you'll laugh, you'll cry," and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I'll cry," because it's like, "Oh, the band broke up and it was very sad because they had potential and everything." But no, you're
No,
crying
he
for entirely different reasons.
yeah, I telling you.
One of the cool things I thought about with the structure, especially rewatching it, was how they decided to save the introduction of Tom until about halfway through.
Yeah, he was the beginning of Act 4 there, so
Right, and
right.
he's kind of like the beginning of the end. And
Mhm.
what I love about him is he represents kind of like the humanity and the just kind of the kind of the graceful, like, yeah, we were in this crazy thing and it was awesome, and it maybe went a little too far, but really, besides Laura himself, he had the most to lose from all of this, because
Yep.
he lost his wife, like legitimately, if this Disneyland thing had never happened, by all intents and purposes, like, him and his wife are probably still together. It really is just
Yeah,
a
exactly.
situation of, but I love how he still holds on to the memories. He still, he wouldn't trade them. It's like, this, like, I mean, just look at the poster here, man. It's like, come on. It's like, this is a work of art. This whole band's existence in its own way
So
is a work of counterculture art. Go ahead.
so the thing I discovered today was that
Hmm.
original poster, like the one you have on the image there, was done by John Alvin, and I don't know if you know who that is, but John Alvin they made it kinda cliche, like, kinda vague on it was just, we got a guy from Hollywood to do the movie poster or make it look like a movie poster.
Yeah.
John Alvin did the movie posters for The Lion King, Aladdin, Hunchback,
Oh
concept
wow!
art
Oh
for things
wow!
like
This guy's got
Space
a
Jam.
distinct. This guy's
Like
got a
this,
distinct style to him. Then.
yeah, concept art for Lord of the Rings. Like this guy was a big movie poster man. It wasn't just like
So what I love
some
about this
random.
guy's style in terms of movie posters is that he was like consistently able to just take like a very baseline premise for a
Mhm.
Disney animated movie and make it seem like the most epic thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, pretty much the same thing with this Halyx poster.
Right.
You know, it's like we got a Wookiee bass player, we
Mhm.
got like a punk rock Snow White. Epic! Adventure Blue
Yeah.
Dude, you got any thoughts on the structure and everything, the pathos?
Yeah, no, the structure makes a ton of sense. Sorry. The structure makes a ton of sense. I thought it was 3-act as well until you laid it out, but it makes 5-act makes a lot more sense.
We're just creatures of habit, Adventure Blue Dude. We both went to film school.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I didn't think of it like episodically almost, but it makes a lot of sense that it's basically episodic. But,
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, in terms of the band itself, I mean, like, what can even be said about it? I just conceptually, what I love about it is that yes, it is basically kind of Kiss meets Star Wars in the most basic terms, but there's a deep lore running through it if you really follow it.
Yep. Yeah. No, definitely.
And frankly, like the designs, I mean, the designs of of course, the Wookiee in particular, which is like the big, like that's the big visual centerpiece that everyone kind of goes to. But also the frog guy, the drummer, he's a really interesting presence. And then, of course, I feel like Tom's role as the stormtrooper with the keyboards. I honestly, that's a little bit of a maybe predates Daft Punk a little bit. I'm serious. You know, the helmeted man, the helmeted spaceman. You know, manipulating computer sound effects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I also think it's very interesting that the same people who worked on this worked on the Main Street Electrical Parade, because that's another kind of like icon of Southern California culture. But, you know, unlike Halyx, which Halyx is very much rooted in just like the most underground of the underground in terms of Southern California culture. The Electrical Parade is almost like that's like it's like the Rose Bowl or something for Southern California. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just fucking iconic. Like there's just like, you know, when people think Southern California in general, they think of the Electrical Parade.
Right.
So
right,
that's an interesting kind of yin yang between, you know, how big both of the acts got in their heydays. But
yeah, exactly right.
But I mean, let's just talk about the whole thing of, man, are you guys with me? Like, I think the podcast the ride people summed it up best when they said, you know, if this was still going on, this would be something that I would drag people to see every time I was in the parks.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, this is like above and beyond the best park entertainment that I can think of right now. Like, when I think of fantastic, just absolutely top of the line park entertainment, to me, probably the first thing that comes to mind is Billy Hill performing in Knott's Berry Farm. That show is just absolutely not to be missed. But I mean, this show's just on another level. You know, Billy Hill is basically like an improv comedy show with some fiddle music. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's wonderful. But this show's just something else. And what I love about this band, I mean, first of all, one of the things about this documentary that I found kind of fascinating is the fact that this band it wasn't born out of Disney. It was something that that kind of got melded into Disney. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was really born more out of like how crazy and conceptual 80s music was just kind of in general.
I mean, it was very much a product of its time.
Oh yeah. Oh, very much so. It's the kind of project that I could see like Ralph Bashki making a movie out of.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, this documentary just, it really captures the essence of what it was like to be there. The energy of it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I like how we have the we have the one of the people being interviewed is like, Laura didn't exactly start out perfect, but God, did she grow into it?
Yes. Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Yeah,
So
no, I
that,
thought that was super interesting.
uh-huh.
That perspective from the songwriter, because that's not something you normally see in documentaries like that.
Right. Where it's like, she's watching this and, she sees the potential in it, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, it's my song, and they're butchering it somewhat. But then, over the course of time, she's like, oh no, Laura's killing it. There's no way anyone could do it any other way. Really good stuff there.
It's funny though, because I've heard like Genie's full demo of it, and I still prefer Genie's more.
I kind of did too from what they showed in the documentary.
I also love how it's like everyone's just like super nervous about about that song. My favorite detail was Ron Miller, who I have met in person. He thanked me for being a volunteer at the Walt Disney Family Museum. And I love that Ron Miller is just like, well, it's on the line, but it's just a live performance, so let's see what happens.
But I love how it was like, it was such an 80s thing, because it was like, yeah, you can sing a song jailbait, try and go into Disneyland with long hair.
Right. Oh God. Can we just talk about how effing painful some of those early Disneyland shows were?
I mean, they're still painful today, to be fair.
But I mean, like, my God, has just the concept of Kids of the Kingdom not aged well.
I mean, it's like the Barbie show that they did.
It's so weird, dude.
80s, 90s? Yeah.
I mean, Kids of the Kingdom is like such a product of its time, man.
Absolutely. And they all have the same voice, and
right, exactly. That's what's really off-putting about it for me.
Just like that weird, overproduced male chorus.
Let's get a Kids in the Kingdom documentary.
Yeah.
And then the clip they showed of that one country star, like, "Hey, y'all, this is Disneyland." Right. It's like, oh God, oh no. And like I said, over the years, Disneyland, like I still feel like Disneyland really embraces, especially once we got into like the mid '90s, early 2000s. I really feel like Disneyland embraces its history in terms of like being a melting pot for the ska bands of that time. I really feel like that's like, they don't like actively acknowledge it in their history, but I feel like at least in terms of like the locals, like it's definitely still prevalent in AP culture.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're embracing it now. There was a while where Disneyland was pretty much ignoring everything that wasn't tourist.
But now I almost feel like it's the opposite.
No, that's what I mean.
Now I feel like they're catering too much to the AP crowd. I mean, that, I don't know. That's just my opinion. It's like, right now, of course, with everything going on, everything is just totally up in the air. And I just pray for the theme park industry in general. But let's see. Any other things we need to touch on here before we get to the ending?
Yeah, I thought everything was very well made. Yeah.
Ace?
Nothing else I can think of, no.
Okay. So yeah, that oh boy, that ending, man. Just Laura being like the big star of the show, the big star attraction, kind of like the classic tale of like, oh, we need to break up the band because this one person is getting bigger than the rest of the band. I mean, that alone is tragic. That alone would be sad if that happened. But fuck, man, what happened to Laura is so much worse than that, dude. It is honestly heartbreaking.
Yeah. When we first watched through it, because like he told us nothing about it ahead of time. So when we first went through it, I was like, man,
no,
the
it
whole,
really hits you. It really hits you.
And it's like how, she'd come home from work every day and check the phone where I was out doing a gig because I had moved on, and I'm like, oh man, it was tough, right? Because it's like you can see where she's coming from, but it's hard because everyone else has clearly already accepted the fate of the band.
There's no
So
bad guy in this situation at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except maybe the Disney record label.
Oh, I thought that wasn't a Disney record label.
Oh, was it not, Ace?
No, it wasn't. So the Disney record label was selling them to other records because Disney Records was like, we're kids' music. This isn't our realm.
Fucking stupid. Gotcha, though.
It's Disney.
Yeah.
They need a Miramax for record labels.
Oh dear God. Oh, don't get me started. But yeah, it's really interesting. Of course, just the whole idea of just basically being in purgatory career-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what really made me just, and the whole haunting element of like I said, one of the things I keep going back to on a dramatic point of view with this is how the whole affair, like, undoubtedly ruined Tom and Laura's marriage, but that Tom still looks back on it fondly and that he wouldn't change anything about it. Like, that is so bittersweet to me. And that's just kind of like ultimately to me, like the baseline that this documentary hits the most is the bittersweet element of this. How Halyx is an amazing creativity, on a creative level. I feel like, especially because of this documentary, it's going to get a lot more fans. I feel like, I really wouldn't be surprised if like t-shirts start popping up like the one that Ace has, and but man, it's like it's such a personal cost. And frankly, I've studied people like Laura because I've studied American Idol winners, and American Idol winners are another case where it's like they get so locked down by that contract that frankly with American Idol the go-to thing is to be fourth place, right? Like, get deep enough into that show that you're remembered, preferably have like a heartbreaking elimination right before the finals, a la Daughtry, but get fourth place. That's the place you need to hit. But
exactly right.
But unfortunately for Laura, it was very much kind of a case of she was the star. She was the spotlight. She really came into her own almost too much. And it really is sad because, when you look at Helix as a whole, it's not just Laura. Laura was a big contributor to it with her stage presence, but it was everyone, man. It was the concept. It was the idea. The idea of Helix is what really kind of stuck to landing. So I don't know. The whole thing just feels like it's almost kind of this unfortunate, like, wasted opportunity to really grow something. Because could you imagine if Halyx was like in the park for like 5 years, what they could have done with that run?
Absolutely.
Oh,
like how much world building
had more than the one summer.
Absolutely. Like how much world building they could have done, how much, like they probably would have had an album at that point. I mean, God, the possibilities are endless with Halyx if they would have actually stuck around. So yeah, I mean, on that level, I feel like this documentary does a fantastic job of, it definitely informs you of like arguably one of the most obscure bits of trivia in Disneyland history. And that's coming from someone who has like studied every corner of Disneyland history that there is to study, at least in published printed form, but it also just, at the end of the day, it's just a very, very, look into a it's a very tragic look into a deeply human story and a deeply human struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. And
All
it's yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's kind of ironic that
Yeah.
now that she's famous again.
Yeah, no, I mean you're not wrong. That's another it's another gut punch, man. Is that this whole thing is going to resurrect people's love of Halyx, but Halyx really can never be again.
Yeah.
All right. And also one of the things I love, I feel like this is kind of like tacking it in on as an afterthought. I wanted to emphasize it more. But I love how we get kind of like the different perspectives of the Space Mountain stage. You know, how when we're first introduced to it, it's almost kind of like, oh, it's like a mini version of the Hollywood Bowl. It's like this elaborate, like outdoor venue, and only the big bands played the space stage. And then throughout the documentary, I feel like very subtly the space stage, is portrayed as smaller and smaller and smaller until people look back and it's like, oh, you really think about it, there wasn't that much there. It was mostly just, passerbys eating their hamburgers on the way to the next attraction,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think kind of got to me in terms of like framing the actual visual narrative of the thing is just, how much time can influence a single location. Because if you look back on the space stage now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's roughly where Red Rockets is, right?
The space
Something
stage
like
is still
that?
there. It's just now the roof's on it.
It's where Honey, I Shrunk the Audience is.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear God. Oh, okay. That
Or
makes
was.
That
that
is the
makes more
space
sense.
stage. It's just they put a roof on it.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I think that's about all there is to talk about with this, guys. Sorry, I'm kind of sorry I'm kind of drained on stuff, but I feel like this documentary kind of speaks for itself in terms of its strengths, and I absolutely think that everyone behind it should be proud. It very much feels like a labor of love between the director and Kevin and all the people who were interviewed and all the people who worked on it, including people like Ace who were kind of fine tuning it behind the scenes. Really awesome stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Right, Ace, would you like to say some final words?
Yeah, it went from this is the craziest thing I've ever heard 18 months ago to it's still the craziest thing I've ever heard, and I can't believe that it happened.
All right. Well, Ace, thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Anytime.
You were a valuable insight into all this. I can't wait to see where this goes. And yeah, thank you all for joining us. This has been a fun ride. We will be back covering more documentary stuff. This has been a great month for documentaries between this and the Ren and Stimpy documentary. That Ren and Stimpy documentary was amazing, but I digress. So excellent week for weird, obscure pop culture documentaries. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been great. See y'all later. Helix out.
Goodbye.